Nation, today is Wednesday, March 14th, 2018. This is MMA Junkie Radio's pre-show, the show before the show. I am Goze. To my left is Gorgeous George, the host of the show. To his left, MMA Junkie Radio's fight analyst, Dan Tom. And back in New York, our producer, Danny Olkers. How's everybody doing?
Good.
Last show of the week before the madness.
And we're starting early. I think we mentioned this a couple times. So if you're all wondering, wow, a 30-minute pre-show. No, it's like a 2-minute pre-show. We're starting early, we're bouncing early, and that'll be it. Now, one thing's for sure, we have said we're taking Thursday and Friday off quite a few times. So that shouldn't come as a shocker.
Nothing should come to a shocker.
And the SiriusXM audience will get a best of. No, SiriusXM audience will get a replay tomorrow and a best of on Friday.
And can I say what the best of is?
Yeah, go ahead and tease it.
It is of the most recent time Big John McCarthy was in.
And you know, knowledge gets kicked when John McCarthy's in studio. We're always gaining some knowledge from him, especially when it comes to judging and officiating bouts. Things that we think we know that we don't know. Man, that's so true for football, too. You know, it's so true for all sports. I will see the commentators actually openly say, you know, I don't know what's a catch anymore. Yeah. Like a Chris Collinsworth or a Troy Aikman, and they've actually played and been part of the media for years, and it all just gets so confusion, and it's all left to interpretation. And so when John's here, so many things to get clarified. I mean, I have a good feeling of all the rules, you know, but there's just these incidents that happen in the sport, like a knee that whizzes by and then retracts on the way back. You know, like it's all happening so fast.
You know, what happens in other sports that doesn't happen in ours is makeup calls. And I saw that last night in one of the basketball games. It was just a bad call. And rather than just leaving it at that, maybe a couple series back down the court, they called another bad call, but going the other way.
Has the ref ever been open about it? I know that they couldn't be, but even a retired ref, I would just be curious.
This is your captain speaking. We are making our descent into Las Vegas McCarran Airport. On behalf of our crew, we'd like to thank you for flying MMAjunkie Airlines. Now please fasten your seatbelts and put your tray tables in your upright position because the descent is going to be a little bit bumpy.
Alright, Junkie Nation, it's time to roll, baby, on MMAjunkie Radio with Gorgeous George and Goze. This is what we do and why we do it, baby. All night long, we rollin'! Yeah!
The MMAjunkie Radio revolution is upon us.
Can you dig it?
There's no escape. No escape. Through the vast frontier of cyberspace and through a sea of stars in outer space.
One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
We've solidified our combat communication stranglehold.
We are controlling transmission.
With the use of MMAjunkie Radio and SiriusXM satellite radio technology. MMAjunkie Radio. Commence transmission. Live from MMAjunkie Radio HQ in the fight capital of the world, Las Vegas, Nevada. Here are your hosts, Gorgeous George and
from the fight capital of the world inside the beautiful Mandalay Bay Race and Sportsbook. You are listening to the MMAjunkie Radio Show, the only show that matters. Early start time as well. That's Goze, the ace co-host. That's Dan Tom, the fight analyst, and back east, Danny Olkers. Olkers. He's our producer. What's up, guys?
Not much. I tried to throw you off this morning, and you didn't even flinch.
What happened?
I gave you the monkey from Family Guy. I pointed right at you like that, and you didn't even flinch.
No, I'm focused on lifting up the trophy and not letting it fall. Yeah, I don't want to jump.
4 other ones.
It's got a good record, though.
That's a good point. That is a good point. Actually, we have 3, and the first year that we won it, the award show, they hadn't done any trophies, no silverware. So all we have is like a encased copy of, what's it called, like the envelope that revealed that we won it. So, but 5 total, yeah. And Dan Stupp has 3 of them. He's our editor-in-chief. He's the MMA junkie. He's on his way. He's on his way to Las Vegas to hang out for a few days as well. Talk some business and relax. So It'll be good to see him. I almost told him, hey, bring them just so that we can do some pictures and then take them back to Tennessee. But they're heavy and
Like
it's
Demetrius?
kind of a bitch. Yeah.
That'd be funny.
You guys might not like this comparison, but as a longtime listener of the show and a longtime Chicago Bulls fan, I always think of those that first run of trophies, like that Bulls first run in the 90s, which would mean I think it's time for another run. You know, I think it's time for another run.
It is time for another run. Has MMA fighting won 2 in a row or just one?
2.
2?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have to stop that. As far as the World MMA Awards.
George, put the gun down.
As far as the World MMA Award, yeah. Hey, how about those kids in those demonstrations? They were serious. 3,000 schools have kids that have walked out, and not walked out of the campus, but just walked onto their quads or their football fields, and to make their statements.
There's a celebrity that's been tweeting Trump every day, right? And saying, "Is today the day that we can talk about it? Is it okay yet?"
Oh,
okay
really?
Yet?
Who is
That's
it?
every day. I can't remember who it was. I was hoping you guys could tell me. But there's somebody that's doing it every day. Is today the day?
I don't know.
The time now? How about now?
I'm so numb to anything Trump on my timeline, to be honest, and just scroll by.
Yeah.
3 years to
Different day
go.
and age.
Yeah.
3 years to go.
You
All
guys
right.
Go ahead.
I was on my path to what else was I going to say? I forget. Oh, by the way, if you're into the NCAA March Madness, our good buddy Sammy the Squid, who's been on the show many times and told you how you can reach him, he has one. So hit him up and get in it. Now the cutoff is, it's basically it's all digital. So the website that runs it, I mean, it cuts it off when it cuts it off. It's not like Sammy can do anything about it. The first tip-off is tomorrow, and I'm just going to say 12 p.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. It really is like 12:10, but why even give you that buffer? It's like 12 Eastern. So if you complete the process, you got to sign up and username, all that. Give yourself 30 to 20 minutes to do it if you're a first-timer. But I've done it many times, and I was able to do it in like 2-3 minutes. Just boom, 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 boom. I did it like 2 days ago. I'm done. I'm set. I'm ready to go. I got the tiebreaker, and I can't wait. It's a lot of fun. I don't think I've ever won it. I think I was third place last year. It didn't get me anything. It's just first place gets most of it. Second might get their money back. But it's like a little mini lottery. It's no different from going into a 7-Eleven and getting some of those tickets, except now you actually have a chance. You have a chance to win. Yeah, you have like a 1 in 30 chance to win.
You guys don't this year, but this year, I'm gonna win it all.
Yeah.
Yep.
And why is that? Are you going all 4 number ones?
Nope.
That's a big proclamation, Goze.
I am not. I will win it all.
Okay.
That's how confident
but
I am. I'm calling it right.
Is there a strategy?
Well, I don't want to give it to you.
No, but is there a strategy?
Yes.
Okay. And it's not the 4 number ones.
No.
All right.
I'm intrigued.
Well, yeah. I mean, whatever it is, we'll patiently wait.
We'll talk about it when I claim my victory.
Sam All Jams in the studio
All right.
from Pennsylvania, joining Bugsy from Las Vegas.
Yeah.
And Buffalo Blue, the internet sensation, also chilling here with us.
Between the 3 of them, they're rooting for what, 8 teams? Something like that? You're a Rebels
Tennessee,
fan.
North Carolina.
Tennessee, North Carolina.
Rebels, Lehigh, St. John's, Villanova, the East Coast.
Dude, I just found out that
I think I'll hear that. Brooklyn's in the house. Allentown, Puerto Rico. Yeah, like
I found out Sam lived off the same streets of Brooklyn as me too earlier. So yeah, he's got that Brooklyn cred.
how long were you in Brooklyn?
Not long, 8 months, and it was like I think we were separated by a couple decades of our residency there. But it was just kind of funny talking about the complete difference. Like it was all Italian when he was there, and there was no Italians by the time I was there. It was,
I think Richard lives in Brooklyn, my cousin.
Yeah.
I went, and it was actually where he lived was pretty nice.
Yeah.
So all we did was barely cross over the bridge. And he lived in a high rise, so I don't know. I don't know that we really got into the depths of Brooklyn, but if I'm not mistaken, it may have been Long Island City. It's called, or Long Island something. Because I even go Long Island, and he goes, no, Long Island. It was something else. It's something Long Island. Do you know what I'm talking about, Sam? No? Yeah. Okay. Is that Brooklyn? Yeah. Okay.
Remember last night, Long Island University of Brooklyn played. I was going in Long Island College Hospital.
Okay. All right. So
connections everywhere.
It's a really, really nice nice building that he had, and no problems getting there. So
I've
anyway,
always been intrigued by that.
Brooklyn?
No, Definitely not Brooklyn. Going into a building and you have your doorman and you go, "Hey, Charles, what's up?" And he goes, "Hey, Mr. Garcia, we got a package for you." That sort of.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. It was pretty cool. That's what you got to do when you're there. But if you live in the city, a lot of people can just make it without a car, even having a car. Like our cousin Chris,
I don't know about that.
he doesn't have a car, and everything gets done by taxi, Uber, the subway, walking, and flying, because he does have to fly for business, but he doesn't even bother with a car. You'd have to park it somewhere, which is almost the equivalent of a car payment. So
I almost thought about being a doorman in New York, believe it or not. I never applied or anything, but I was like, it looks like a pretty good job. If someone can make because you have to think about multiple jobs when you try to live in a place like New York now because it's so expensive. But I was like, hey, I worked valet, worked some security. A lot of these guys don't look like they could, handle themselves if a situation went down. Maybe I could get a good job.
Can you think of any TV or movie doorman? Even if you don't remember the name, if they were prominent or had a role, just tell me where you remember.
Marty Crane a doorman for a little bit?
Oh,
no, he was security.
He was security, yeah.
Michael Clark Duncan?
What was he a doorman in?
He just looks like a door. The big guy, he's deceased, so I shouldn't probably mention him. But
oh, man. Bobby Brown. Wasn't he a doorman in the second Ghostbusters movie? Wasn't he like, "Yo, my kids love you"? Not that he sounds like that, but...
Proton Pack, yeah.
I remember Seinfeld had an episode about the doorman. But I don't know that they always had the same doorman. But you know who I was thinking of? The Jeffersons. Samuel Jam, you can co-sign, right? They always had a doorman, and he actually had a recurring role. And then how about the movie Cocktail? That doorman kind of gets into it with Tom Cruise. He didn't really have a role other than trying to stop Tom Cruise from going upstairs to be with Elizabeth Shue. Yeah.
They had a guy that would always come up.
Carlton.
The best one of the best doormans that knocked up who's the guy with from Office, the black dude with the afro and
Stanley?
Gets into it with Judd Apatow's wife. She's like, "You're just a doorman. You're a doorman." He's like, "Listen." He has a break there. He's like, "Listen, I don't like the job."
Today we'll talk to Brandon Moreno, who was supposed to be our co-host for the day, and it's not going to work out. We're just going to have to do a phoner with him. He's fighting Ray Borg in Brooklyn, UFC 223. April 7th. That fight was supposed to happen in Texas a few weeks ago, and they had to postpone it. So luckily the postponement didn't last long, and now they'll be getting down soon. And also, boy, two men couldn't be closer than somebody
what the hell was just happening?
You getting a lap dance over there? What's going on?
You got to pay for that here. You know that? You pay extra for those.
I don't. They were like 2 feet apart. How could they not hear each other?
Yeah, there we go, Danny.
Now they're leaving.
That would have been appropriate, actually.
They're going into the VIP room.
I think we scared them away, Danny, with the music. But yeah, it was appropriate.
Dan, you got to come up with another one too.
That's the creepy music.
Is it?
It's my theme.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's the creepy music.
This is the song.
Is this the only creepy music that exists? I love it, but he plays it all the time.
You know, in his defense, I have shared a lot of creepy stories lately. I think we've had a run with, at least with Duffy in the
You'll
studio.
never top the pissing one.
Oh, getting peed on? Yeah. This is the last month I've talked about getting peed on, pooping myself on the Great Wall of China. We covered that this week. What else did we cover? Public debauchery in a French hostel. I covered that. I got to stop being so honest on the show, guys.
No. Honesty's good. Honesty's good. What you have to stop is Michael Clark Duncan's The Door. That one was like, huh? I almost hit the eject button.
Michael Clark Duncan, you know who that actor is?
There's a better doorman.
Michael Clark Duncan's one of the few actors that they would go to the UFC.
But he's as big as The Door? That was your way of saying
the UFC too.
Yeah, he
We met him
did.
in Anaheim.
He wasn't friendly.
Oh, he wasn't.
No,
he was friendly to us.
Was he? No, to me he wasn't friendly. He didn't give me the inviting feeling like, yeah, come on, dog. You know, unless the picture. It was like, okay. I mean, I didn't come here for pictures, but let's do it. You know, you want a picture, let's do it.
Okay.
And so I was already in the motion, I think, of just doing it. But halfway through, I wanted to just peel back and go, fuck you. How's that sound?
Ooh. So it was like, was it close to the Undertaker moment, and not that level?
No, that was more of a threat.
Yeah, that was.
Because that was confrontation.
Yeah, and on Busted Open, they talk about how the Undertaker couldn't be a nicer guy.
I know, Jim Ross.
And
said the same
I'm not
thing.
calling them a liar. I'm not calling them or them liars. I'm not, because it could be that the isolated incident was Goze. It could be somebody's interviewing the Undertaker and saying, "Name 5 moments you regret," and him saying, "Man, that was this kid in Anaheim. I had a bad night." Could be, but what I saw was he was just a jerk, And so yeah, that's all I've seen. But they go out of their way on saying on Busted Open that he really, really, truly is a nice guy.
Whatever. I could have talked to him. I ran into him at Affliction, the first Affliction.
Did you really?
Yeah, because we had to go in through the same door. But I didn't want to start a fight or nothing.
I've never had a bad celebrity run-in. I'm trying to think. You guys have always. My only bad run-in has been with anybody notable. Was a
guy from RoboCop didn't like us, or Starship Troopers.
The only bad run-in I can remember recently with anybody notable who's been on TV was it was an athletic commission member, which was Pat Lundvall. Held the door open for her at a Roberto's taco shop, and she didn't say thank you.
That's not nice.
And you want to be a doorman.
That's a big thing. That's a big thing for me, man. You got to say thank you. I'll be the nicest guy in the world. You didn't say thank you for holding the door? Oh, I'll turncoat real fast.
Hey, Mia Hamm was awful.
Yeah? What'd she do?
Awful.
You were there?
Yeah.
Then help me tell the story because I don't really remember. But if I recall, I politely asked her if I could take a pic, right?
This is at a Dodger game. We're sitting in the family section. At the time, she was married to Nomar Garcia-Parra.
I think they're still married.
Are they?
Yeah.
All right. So she's about 4 or 5 rows in front of us. When the game is over, we go down to ask for a photo, and George said, "Is it okay if we take a picture or something like that?" And
let me chime in. And you can bring it. You can bring it home. So what happened was, I know that a lot of these celebrities, one thing they don't like about the picture is that it draws attention. For taking one's probably not a big deal, but taking 20 is a big deal. And I think she was there with family. I think they have a daughter or something. So I'm cognizant of this because I've seen Trig go through this when he was very popular, Goze and I would purposely take a picture with Trig, even if he didn't want it. Like, he's trying to get out of it, and we'd do it just so that the flash could bring attention, and then he'd be fucked, and then we'd laugh. But anyway, in this instance, I thought, the game's over. I'm just going to let people file out. Until she starts to file out, then I'm going to catch her. But as long as she's there, we're just going to wait and wait and wait. So that's a courtesy. Then when I went there, I said, can I take a picture with you? Please, or something.
No, you didn't say. That's what she burned you.
No, she didn't like that. Didn't say thank you at the end.
No, I think it was please. And you said,
"May I take a picture with you?" Is what I said.
Do you mind if I take a picture with you? And she said, "Normally people say please or something like that."
Yeah, that's what it was. It was like that little finishing touch that I was missing. And granted, if we were in the court of etiquette, I think the judge would go, judgment, Mia Hamm, because I probably missed out on please. But I'm telling you, man, the fact that I waited, the approach that I had, being courteous of the women, a lot of them don't like to be touched and all. I fucking hit all the check marks. So I either missed that or the thank you at the end. And she had a really, really big attitude over it, man. It just kind of killed it for me because I thought she was just an amazing soccer player for the country, and I thought my approach as a fan was respectful.
She also didn't like another person had taken a picture
and he touched her.
Like when Jenny Andrade is here, right? You can put your arm around her and take a picture, or Ariane or any of those. You can't really grab her and hug up on her, but the arm, is okay. I think she brushed his hand off really rudely.
Yeah.
And it's not like he was like, come in here. Like, he just kind of did that, and she was just all around a terrible person.
Oh, wow. See, I was going to introduce a third. You guys had two perspectives. I was going to introduce a third perspective, Mia Hamm's perspective, where, man, who are these two guys that are just creepily staring at me through this whole game right now, waiting for me to get up? What's going on? I was kidding.
Well, I don't know that we spotted her for the whole game. I don't know that she was on the radar.
Right.
But I know that once I saw her, I just thought, I'm not going to do it now. And I know that a lot of people had left where it could have caused more of a commotion. So it's not like she knew I did that.
Yeah.
So I don't think she's going to thank me like, oh, thank you so much. Good looking out for your approach. No. But still, the whole thing, I know, man, because my mom was really, really big on etiquette. Pleases and thank yous. And I try not to miss that. Excuse me's, anything like that. So when others don't do it, I notice it. But I'm also realistic that I just think our parents brought us up differently years ago than they do now. So I try not to hold it on others that just forget it. I think I become more of a jerk. I think me saying it almost becomes more of a jerk to the person than them forgetting to say it. Especially if it's just I'm only having some time with them. Like when you run into a family member or friend. Now, if it was someone like on the go, like let's say Goze had a kid, and every Friday comes with Uncle George or something like that, and he didn't say it then I might tell him, listen, this is what you say or whatever, just because I know I'm going to have interaction with him forever. right? Unless Goze and I have some parting of the ways. But
Why don't
if
you
it's
be a shitty parent in your scenario?
well, I couldn't think of another scenario. I mean, usually family gives you that latitude.
Yeah.
Listen to your uncle. You hear that a lot from people. They'll say that. You know, they have that respect for someone or whatever. But if it's someone like I'm only seeing today, hey, it's a long lost family member. I'm not gonna sit there and correct them, and them go home with that little memory. You know. All right. So our other guest today, Devin Clark. He is going to be fighting on the same card as Brandon Moreno, UFC 223 in Brooklyn, New York. Devin Clark is going to be on in a few minutes, so we are going to take a break in about 5 minutes and then come back with him. We can take a couple calls right now, 866-522-2846. Brandon Moreno will be on in about 1 hour from now, so we still have some time there. So plenty of pockets for you to call in, talk about UFC 223, if that's what you want to talk about, or whatever else is on your mind. You see Cynthia Calvillo, she got a suspension from USADA for 6 months for marijuana metabolites. Nevada tacked on an extra 3.
Yeah, I saw that yesterday.
What are your thoughts on that? Don't get into marijuana, should it or should not be a banned substance, but just them having two different, the 2 different jurisdictions and 2 different judgments or punishments.
I think it's kind of stupid, especially, come on, man. I mean, be a little consistent. Maybe it seems like a little bit of a pissing match. Maybe, I don't know. Like, we're the real authority here. So, I don't know. It just seemed dumb.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the whole thing that upset me. I actually made a distasteful tweet about it just because it had nothing to do with the marijuana part of it. It's just the principle of, really, again, you guys burn your calories to be different but not to make the sport better, which is your job. And, again, it's hard when, like I just kind of gave that anecdotal story, when the only experience I have with these commission members aren't the greatest. The only exposure we have as viewers and as media in their hearings, they don't make the greatest account for themselves, whether it's as personalities or just being competent with their jobs. It's not trying to be mean. I'm really trying to pull back right now with these opinions, but really, what are they really giving us compared to what their jobs are? And having nothing to do with Cynthia Calvillo, having nothing to do with marijuana or those stances, that was just kind of one of those tipping point things where I'm like, really, again, of all the things we're having to deal with our sport, trying to get cards, trying to get momentum going, and this is something that we have to deal with on top of the many other things, whether it's the promotions having to deal with it as promotions, us having to deal with it as media, and the fighters having to deal with it, most importantly, because it affects their livelihood, and, of course, fans and so forth down the road. Because, again, like Goze said, we got to be different, kind of hearkening back to, which would be a great revisit to have that John McCarthy on the replay for serious listeners. And he's speaking on the commissions not getting along, how it's messing up the referees, too. This is messing up everybody, guys. It has nothing to do with Cynthia Calvillo. It has nothing to do with marijuana or any of those regulations. It's their inability to put their ego aside and get on the board to do their job. It's costing a lot right now. It's frustrating.
One other thing, too. Could it be that I've sat at those meetings, and there are a lot of older people there?
Yeah.
You think they just like, these kids and their marijuana, you know, like, you think it's a lot of an age...
I think so.
Okay, and so as some of them get phased out, because those jobs ain't going anywhere, they're going to milk them as long as they can. But eventually, younger commission members, you think they'll just look at each other and go, "What are we doing here?
Yes.
Let's just the 6 months if that's what they gave, good. Let's talk about something more important."
Yeah.
Okay.
I think they associate marijuana more with Nick Diaz than with the actual drug itself, with the way they're punishing it, if you think about it, Because, again, those stereotypes, as silly as they may sound, George is right, they're from older people. And those said stereotypes are people who want to fight the establishment. They're bad people. These are weird social associations we make with a bunch of drugs, including marijuana. And Nick Diaz, even though he wasn't technically in the wrong for a lot of his things, let's be honest, his court case, that uproar, made more of a stronger A team versus B team.
And do you also think that they even feel like, had she not smoked, we wouldn't even be here?
Yes.
Yep.
And that's
a little bit
the
of
point
that.
I was going to get to was, we have a listener, and I don't want to say his name, but he likes to do that. But he hasn't done that in like 10 or 15 years.
Because of work.
Because of work.
Right.
And when I asked him, like, don't you ever get tempted? He goes, of course, but it's not worth the risk.
Right.
And that's why I don't feel sorry, because... why even do that if it's a possibility that you can lose out on those 9 months, right? If you're a guy at the end of his career, his or her career, you're IFA, like, you don't think he was dying to have 9 more months left in his career, 1 more fight, maybe 2 more fights, depending on who you are. At the end of your career, it means a lot. 9 months is a long time in your life, and I wouldn't risk it.
Yeah, and here's the thing. To top it off, you can risk it, especially in the USADA era. It's more strict on performance-enhancing drugs, but it's less strict when it comes to marijuana.
Yeah,
Remember before they used to say, hey, Nick, it's like 2 weeks out, 3 weeks out, depending on your body and the metabolites and what's left. So to be safe, don't smoke a whole month out. It's only, in the USADA era, it is only 8 hours before and 8 hours after. So it's what's called in competition. Right. That's all you have to do. You know what I mean? Now, granted, I believe if you want to give yourself, again, that buffer, I think they're saying a week, 3 days to a week, depending on your body composition, that you don't have to do it. And I mean, I would imagine that the one afterwards probably isn't even as big of a deal. But the one before, you definitely want to at least have the fight. But then, but coming out of it, I imagine you don't want to get busted there either. But regardless, in competition is 8 hours before and 8 hours afterwards. Yeah. Like, so that's so silly for a fighter at this point for us to even be having that discussion. And what's scaring me is, like, O'Malley, I'm a fan of his, obviously. Right. I think he's got a bright future. I think he's got a great fighting style. He's out there and he's having these parties, where he's got his own strain and they're paying him well. Good on you, man. But have that in a week or have that in 3 days. For that day, just go out and toast and have a drink and party all you want. Wait your 8 hours out. Don't jeopardize any bonuses or anything else or any types of suspensions because of that. And it sucks because that's when it should be highlighted. And it also sucks, and I'm not trying to say don't smoke or anything like that. That's not what I'm not saying, because this is in a state where it's now legal, recreational or medicinal. So that's a whole other conversation. But I'm just saying those are the rules.
Do we even know that she did it in that time frame for sure? Is that a positive?
Well, that's what the test is saying. We got to believe that's what happened.
There's another can of worms there, which I don't want to get into now. But there's a whole thing on how they test and what they're testing for and metabolites in that issue, which I don't know. That was brought to light with the Nick Diaz test, because metabolites, it's a weird thing where these can store in fat cells. The release are different depending on everybody's biology. So you can test positive for metabolite, but that doesn't mean you even took it near in competition, right? But there's also cases where fighters were just irresponsible. And again, I have no sympathy for any irresponsibility or anybody with the time frames, but I am saying there is something to consider with all these cases.
From what I've heard from the experts, the test is pretty clear that it's 8 hours before, 8 hours afterwards. But to be safe, even these metabolites that remain in your body, with any consumption outside of 3 days, and you should be good. I think I even heard a week, and you're almost fail-proof. So I don't believe that's asking much of the athlete.
From that definition, yeah. But I'm saying that there's a testing method, and there's actually been articles. I don't want to speak anymore because I'm going to be ignorant because I can't cite. But there's actually articles written that speak to this controversy and how they're testing it and why the way they're testing it is really silly and kind of defeats the purpose. By those basic definitions, I've heard that too, and that is
so. It's the testing method, or it's the fact whether she really did it or didn't.
It's the testing method and what they're testing for, because there's a bunch of different. And again, I'm not an expert on this or marijuana or any of that, so I'm speaking very reserved in case you can tell. But this have come up many times. You see articles get circulated anytime a fighter pops for this.
Where'd you read this? Do you remember?
I believe it's Bloody Elbow. Actually, I want to say at Lane Kidd. He posts a lot of these medical stuff. That's what he specializes in. Anytime these John Jones arbitration cases,
right?
And he always posts one anytime a fighter gets flagged. And it's been a while since I read it, so I'm going to do that justice. He does a really good job. And make sure to read that. But yeah, the point is it's not so much to argue that point, but like what you said, George, that's the inherent problem. Is that they say it's 2 to 3 weeks. They say it's there's no hard line. It's they say they're allowing, and that's the dangerous part. You know what I'm saying? Like, especially with if we're talking about a drug that really is kind of so intricate like that, we either need to have a hard stance, a hard line, or not. And from what it sounds like, there's not.
The hard line is 8 hours.
Yeah,
the metabolites is everything else that could still stay within your system, but as long as you haven't reached certain thresholds,
right,
within the 8 hours, you should be okay.
But there is no hard line, because look at the article we're talking about. It's a different suspension. I mean, we have different laws. We have different treatments of it. Whether it's different commissions having different rules, or whether it's on marijuana and that's what we were circling back to. I think that's what we're upset with the initial thing, was just that it's not about the marijuana. It's about getting on the same board, having these different punishments, having these little technical laws.
Yeah, that I agree. They need to have the same. I think they need to match. I think what Goze was saying was right. Was they just wanted to put down their authority.
Yeah.
All right. What were we saying, Danny? Sorry, I didn't catch that.
I said we got 3 calls on hold right now.
3 calls. Let's take them. All right. We got to blast through them, though, because we do have our guests coming up, and we may have to go straight into the guests. I don't know what to figure it out one way or another. We always do. Joe from H-Town, what's up, buddy?
Fellas.
Hi.
You know, I think you guys are kind of wasting your time talking about this because there's no chance that I see her serving 9 months. So I think it'll go to some kind of hearing and she'll get it downplayed. She'll take her little courses and get less than that. But that's not why I called, man. I want to talk about my man Nick Newell. You know, I just think it's really silly for people to say that he doesn't belong in the UFC. I mean, there's no standard anymore to belonging in the UFC. People talk about how he can't defend himself like a guy with 2 hands. He can't compete with the top 10. Well, guess what? I can name you about 100 lightweights in the UFC that fit that same criteria, that they're not going to compete with the top 10. So, you know, the guy's a draw. You know, the arena was buzzing that night when I went with Marcel. He's must-watch TV, man. He's a draw in some kind of way. And, you know, if you go into a fight with a guy with 1 hand, you're probably going to laugh, right? You're going to, man, I'm going to whoop this dude's ass. But that's not the case with this guy, man. This guy has a set of skills. He can take you down. You cannot defend that choke because there's no hand to grab off your neck. So, you know, that's just deadly right there, man. That's all I got to say, man. I got to go. You guys have a good one, man.
Thanks, Joe.
Can I make a point on this?
Sure.
Really, when you break it down, is having an experienced mixed martial artist like Nick Newell, who's missing part of his arm, fighting, is that any more dangerous than taking a pro wrestler and having him fight in mixed martial arts with very limited experience?
I'm glad you asked that, Goze, because you used the word breakdown, and look on the front page of Junkie right there. There's actually a breakdown on it that I worked on with Nick Newell himself, where I spoke to him after his big win. And Joe, I agree with you, man. And I sent him in that case, and I actually wrote, it's on the front page of Junkie right now, an in-depth breakdown, actually breaking down the skills, taking all the emotion out of the argument from both sides, whether you're pro or against, and we're just looking at him as a martial artist, which I feel that needs to be done, and I think that sentiments to your point and many, and what the point that Goze was going to make, if I'm not correct, right?
Yeah, we did the debate about this, and everybody was on the same side. The only side that was different was myself, and I was trying to give you more of a perspective of how the UFC's probably thinking about it. I think 3 years ago they would have accepted him into the UFC. Right. He had definitely earned a spot by then, even before the Gaethje loss.
Yeah.
But then the Gaethje loss happened, and then the retirement happened, and then him coming back. I imagine that they'll probably wait and see one more fight. If I got it right, how the UFC usually takes a lot of these newcomers on. Let's talk to Vegas Ford. What's up, Ford?
Hey, what's going on, guys? I'll make it really quick. Gigi, we need hard dates on the gathering, sir. We got junkies dropping like flies.
Oh, yeah, but see, I caved. All right, thank you for the call. I caved into that last year, and we wound up doing it on a date. And luckily, Goze pulled it off. It was a great gathering, but we wound up doing it on a date where we didn't have an event. So we've just been trying to get, like, the most information gathered so we can have the best event for you guys, really. It's in no way are we saying, like, oh, man, I want you to pay more for a flight. Oh, man, I want you to pay more for a hotel. If anything, we're trying to do less. And let me say this, too. When we had thrown out the original date of September, well, guess what? No one had made any arrangements anyway that had to do with hotel or flight that we heard of. So it's not like, oh, my God, people ran to the computers and just started making plans left and right. And I know that because when we teased the possible October, I saw the feedback and nobody had said anything. All right, we got to take this break. You're listening to MMA Junkie Radio on Sirius XM Rush 93. Stay close. We'll be right back.
They are the stretch marks on the underbelly of the MMA community. But hey, stretch marks are the new tats. They are Gorgeous George and Goze.
Whether you're a Lehigh Valley fan, a St. John's fan, a Villanova fan, a fan of many other teams, it doesn't matter, because we are on the road to the Final Four on SEC this morning. Join Peter Burns and former LSU All-American Marcus Spears as they look at the SEC matchups in men's and women's postseason play. SiriusXM, SEC Radio, Channel 374, and on the SiriusXM app. All right, let's get back to some mixed martial arts here, although March Madness, oh man, I'm feeling it, aren't you?
Why did you say that? Whether you're a Villanova, St. John's, aren't they just all tied together? Like, if you're a fan of one, you're a fan of all four, right?
Sometimes that happens, yes. Yeah.
Wow, that's weird.
Let's talk to Devin Clark, who you can follow on Twitter, at BrownBearC. He is fighting in the Ultimate Fighting Championship. We met him when he was with RFA, and now he's got 4 fights under his belt. He's 2-2 overall, looking to go positive in his record, over 500. And he is going to be fighting at UFC 223 versus Mike Rodriguez on April 7th. That, of course, is headlined by Khabib Nurmagomedov versus Tony Ferguson. What's up, Devin? How you doing, man?
Hey, how are you guys doing?
Good, my man. How about you?
Yeah, just got done training. Just got some hard wrestling rounds in.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Were you kicking ass, or were people taking it to you?
It goes both ways sometimes. Just got, going with Carlos Condit and guys like that. So it's down here at Jackson Wink, stop at the gym. You can't expect to win everyone, but we definitely work hard. So it turns out comes out good for the fight.
That is the mature veteran answer, isn't it?
It is. I would rather
fighters say if I'm mopping the floor up with people at the gym,
you're not getting better.
I'm not getting better. I'm not at the right gym.
You gotta be on the receiving end of a few of those.
Smart.
And Carlos Condit, I mean, he's been around. Is he like just today's training partner, or is he someone you've clicked with and you often train with?
Yeah, we're both training for the fight here, so we definitely get rounds in. He's a vet, and I try to learn a lot from guys like that. And everybody in here, everybody has so much experience. So going with him is a great time, great learning experience all the time.
Are there any other fighters that you've wound up, clicking with and getting a lot of rounds in?
It's just kind of a bit of everybody. There's not a whole lot of big guys here right now, but haven't really get in the way. Trained with John a little bit, one-on-one. John Jones, Joe with him and stuff like that. But definitely getting work in.
What's that like? I mean, that'd be like a basketball player, a young basketball player. Getting some one-on-one time with Jordan, after practice.
I was just gonna say it's like going with Michael Jordan. It's definitely exactly what you think it is. Yep.
Is it humbling? I guess because he's so skilled. I'm sure there's a lot you can learn from, but at the same time, he's so good. What's that feeling like after training with him?
It's pretty much all above there. It's humbling. It's a blessing. Like I said, not only am I learning, but I'm also pushing back and try to help the other guys I'm working with too. And it goes both ways usually in any situation with any partner down here.
Mm-hmm. Devin Clark, our guest here on MMAjunkie Radio, he will be fighting at UFC 223, April 7th. Your headliner that night. Khabib Nurmagomedov versus Tony Ferguson. That is a huge card that's coming up. Stay intact card, no injuries. All right, Goze. What do you have for Devin Clark?
Devin, do you remember the exact moment in mix-up martial arts where you figured out this is for me 100%? This is what I want to do.
Yeah, it was like my third or fourth amateur fight, and we went 3 rounds or whatever. It was like 2 minutes into the third round. And I adjusted. I switched to southpaw, threw a head kick at this dude, and it landed. And I KO'd him. He had to get stretchered out and everything. And that's when I kind of all right, I might be pretty good at this. So that's kind of when I went all in. And ended up, but it was in South Dakota before they were sanctioned and stuff like that. So it was kind of a hard road because people didn't really want to fight good people. So after that, I had a little bit of a name, and I couldn't get the right fights I wanted. And then I did a pro fight, and then after that, I had my daughter and took, I think, 9-10 months off. That's when RFA started to come to. Dakota got sanctioned RFA, started to come to Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and it all, it goes off from there.
So I got to imagine, as an amateur, your first goal is to become pro, then to get a pro victory, and then I have to imagine big show, then the UFC, get a victory in the UFC. What about the mini goals? What are like the mini goals? Because I know most fighters, they want to get that belt, but what about the goals in between? What are those for you?
Usually it's staying injury free. That's a huge thing in anybody's career. Because a lot of times on the come up, you get these little stupid injuries, knee injuries, elbows, that might affect you down the road. But just staying healthy and not deterred by the process, because it is a process, and a lot of guys will get deterred. I don't know if those are really goals or not, or just some things to be aware of, but for me, that's kind of what it's about. And I always just look for the next fight.
UFC.
And look for that next victory.
Sorry about that. UFC light heavyweight Devin Clark on the phone with us. He'll be fighting Mike Rodriguez at UFC 223 on April 7th. All right, the fight analyst, Dan Tom, he's got something for you. What you got, Dan?
Hey, Devin, one of my favorite things about watching your footage, man, is hearing your pops in your corner. Is he going to be out there with you in Brooklyn?
Absolutely. He's going to be there. He definitely, I like having my dad in my corner. He always will be. He had some mentality. And he always has since I was 6 years old when I started boxing, and then I went wrestling. He always looked after me, always got me in the right mindset. Made sure I didn't quit. If I started something, made sure I finished it. So we got a special connection there when it comes to athletics, and getting me going and keeping me on the right track. So he's always there with me. He's more or less my mental coach.
That's awesome, man. And, yeah, I mean, that special connection, obviously, first and foremost, the most important thing. But I got to imagine having, the set of horns that he has in the corner and having an identifiable voice. I know that comes in handy in the chaos. So that's got to be a bonus there, man. But speaking of Brooklyn and getting ready for this, I know you spoke about, at least flirted, I dare say, about, talks of different weight classes. What is your walking around weight? Do you walk around near the Division 205? And is there any thoughts of going up or down in the future?
I've been about 230, and now I'm about, 225, and but I'm not down as the fight gets closer. I like to hold on to a little bit of muscle so I can get my speed, quickness, all that stuff. I debuted at UFC, I was at 185, and I didn't feel right. So I definitely feel better at 205, and I think this is the weight class I'll stay at. And until I get old, maybe heavyweight, but...
I remember that. I remember you telling us, when we interviewed you as an RFA guy, that middleweight might be where you wind up. But now you've explained you were there. It didn't feel right. And that is, the other weight classes that we get talked about when fighters go up and down, they only have to worry about 10 pounds. 20 pounds is quite a bit more. So you definitely made your decision. Your last 3 fights have been as a light heavyweight, and you're 2-1 there. But one last question here on that topic, and then we'll let it go. 195, it has been approved by ABC. It's just that the UFC hasn't instituted it. But we're hearing more rumblings that the UFC might at some point embrace it. Would you be open to 195, or is it just, or is it 205 going forward?
195 is definitely would be manageable. That would depend on the division and stuff like that, and the opportunities there. But 195 definitely would be. That's right in my wheelhouse there. That extra 10 pounds is just too much for me. I end up cutting too much muscle.
How's this fight end on April 7th between you and Mike Rodriguez? Give me your prediction.
I think it's going to scrap. I'm thinking me on top of him, just beating the crap out of him. I know he's not a wrestler; he's a striker. I know what I have to beware of with him. But yeah, I see me finishing him here, probably in the second round.
There you have it, folks. His name is Devin Clark. And you can follow him on Twitter at BrownBearC. He'll be fighting Mike Rodriguez at UFC 223 in Brooklyn, New York. Thanks for the time, Devin. It was great catching up with you. And by the way, he goes by Slow and he goes by Bones. You may want to tell him there's only one Bones, brother, right in the middle of that fight. Then you'd be happy.
I had that conversation with John already. You can't think someone else's name, man. So that stuff like that adds to it. So
yeah, I think I know there's a lot of pit bulls and assassins and things like that, but Jones is like GOAT status, or at least he's in that convo for sure. I think you have to let somebody retire, and then you can come in and do something like that. You know,
Are there suitable replacements
for what? For Bones? No, man.
Like Jake, where if you're Jake, you got to be the Snake.
Well, no, and exactly. And here's the thing: is normally like the other day we had Israel Adesanya in here, and a lot of people were saying, "Wow, you remind me of him." But the first thing I can tell you is I want to carve out my own identity, so it's really tough. I mean, I don't know, maybe he changed his name to Slow permanently, but he also had it listed as Bones, so we'll see. But I'm glad you had a good laugh at that.
Oh, definitely, because that was the first nickname I saw. I'm like, this dude, like, wonder who he's trying to be like, So
right.
So yeah, it turned out good. So.
All right, my man. Hey, thanks for doing a catch up with us here on the show. It's always great talking to you. Good luck with the rest of your camp, and we'll be tuning in on April 7th when you and Mike Rodriguez mix it up.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
All right, take care, Devin. We'll see you.
All right, bye.
Late. All right, folks, we're going to take our break here. You're listening to MMA Junkie Radio on Sirius XM Rush 93. Stay close. We'll be right back. We'll do a run of calls. We still have a few minutes before we get to Brandon Moreno. Maybe we'll bring in some of the junkies, talk a little bit about March Madness. I'm starting to turn the page, guys. After Moreno, that's it. I'm only thinking hoops, man. I'm really, really excited about the tournament. All right, we'll be right back.
They taught Andy Griffith how to whistle. Here are Gorgeous George and Goze.
The Jim Rome Show is now on SiriusXM weekdays at noon Eastern. Catch the Jungle and the rest of the CBS Sports Network on channel 201 and on the SiriusXM app. Now that's a jam. Turn it up, Danny.
This is thanks to Sam All Jam. He picked this one.
Nice, Sam All Jam. Good call. He picked the song that we're coming back to. What is it, Danny?
Let's Work.
Let's Work? I like it. I like it. All right. We can take some calls. We got a few minutes, quite a few minutes, before we get to the Assassin Baby, Brandon Moreno, fighting out of Tijuana, Mexico. Although he's actually here in Vegas. He's at the UFC PI. His schedule just didn't work out where he was going to be able to co-host. He was really excited about it. He was down all the way until yesterday. And what a lot of people don't know is the UFC PI really is open for all the athletes to come and train. And as you've seen with Conor McGregor, they'll even keep it open at 2 a.m. or midnight or whenever it is he wants to come over. I don't believe that's their normal hours. So, again, you're a UFC athlete. You can show up anytime and get some work in. But remember I told you guys, I did the tour. It's big, it's impressive, but it's not so overwhelmingly massive that, like, oh, my God, like 50 to 70 athletes could just come in at one time and they'd all be – no. And so what they do is you kind of have to have an appointment. Like, if you really want to see these names, we hear about Clint and Bo and some of these others that work there, you know, strength and conditioning or the people that want to break down the chemistry of your body. You have to have appointments for that. And so when you get there, I'm sure you realize, oh, wow, okay, well, they only have this time. You write your name down, and then next thing you know, all their attention is yours, you know. But I think that's what happened with Brandon is he realized he had to put in for a time, and it coincided with the show's time.
What's the one test that intrigues you the most about that place?
I want them to run a test that says stay away from this, and you could lose weight. And it'd probably be milk, bread, you know, the common shit. But I really just want to hear it, like your body composition, the blood, or something like that.
I want to know what my body breaks down the fastest.
Yeah, I mean, something like that. Yeah.
Dude, the pain tolerance test doesn't look fun. Like they'll usually either have someone like Ngannou or someone in a room just waiting for you, and you're like, all right, I'm gonna set the timer.
Well, he kind of goes through that with his knee, right?
Oh, feels like
yeah.
Yeah, I shouldn't.
What do you mean, like getting him slugging you? Or
Yeah,
what?
no, I was just kidding.
Mortal Kombat, that's your mic. That should be playing when his knee's getting.
Look, there's a lot of them there.
How'd you do on that?
I'd like to know, like cycling, running, which one would burn more calories for me? You know, if it's specific for me. But
when you went back and did the, did you share that story on the air? Yeah,
Which
right.
one?
Why you had to go home?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
I didn't go back. I didn't go back because she told me I could pay the next time I went. That was what I was more concerned about.
Yeah, that's on.
And I did want to finish the exercises, but then we got the 24-hour cutoff on that other thing, and I was just more focused on calling and texting and getting that done. So I want to do it. And now the junkies really are starting to get on me about the. No, they're not pissing me off, but they want answers on the other thing.
We want answers,
and I want our Virginia business to be settled, and then I move on to the next thing, because the one thing I've never been good at is compartmentalizing.
Oh man,
I always have to say that word slow, because
compartmentalizing.
Yeah, I try and like a good chef, you just got all these pans and you're just doing this, and you know.
Yeah,
I can't do that, man. I have to do. I used to be able to. I just have to isolate on one, and I want to finish our Virginia business first, and then start working on this.
So you want to get the eggs done, then the bacon, then the pancakes.
But here's why I don't feel bad. I gave him a quick answer, but do you remember when we said it's September? Then we waited about a month or so, and the UFC released some dates in October. And I told Goze, ooh, shit, do you think anyone made their arrangements yet? We put out an email, and I think we said something on the show, and it turns out no one had. We gave them 2 weeks. That way, if anybody listened to the show on a huge delay, even they could say something. And nobody did. So nobody went to run to buy these flights or make these reservations the same way they did. And the reason is because I think they're all waiting for the fucking Hopper or the Black Fridays or the White Mondays or the Purple Wednesdays or all these opportunities where one can go in there and get a great deal. You know? And that's great. Do that. But again, the so-called pressure that was there, I just didn't see it. So Then another issue came up with the World MMA Awards, and again, we're all trying to tie it into you guys having the best time possible with the most possible events, the most things to do, the most opportunities, and that's where we're at. I think we have our answer, so we can do it. We can give a date out, but that's really what it was, man. It wasn't just delays to piss anybody off or anything like that. It's just too many things are coming together. So anyway, take that as you will. We are up against the clock here. The first hour is up. 1 hour to go. It's MMA Junkie Radio on SiriusXM Rush 93. Stay close. We'll be back with a run of calls at 866-522-2846. And then we'll talk to Brandon Moreno. You know what? I'm thrown off by this whole 27 versus 57. It's fucking with me. But anyway,
same here.
We'll be right back. Here. Michael Jackson.
What if that's how the first UFC was? They tied their wrists together.
Beat it. What's that, Dan?
What if they did the first UFC like that? They tied their wrists together like this music video?
Like a Fijian strap match? Yeah. I think that's what they called it. All right, we're back. It's the second hour of the MMA Junkie Radio Show. Danny, you're often being hailed as a great producer, and you knocked it out of the park with popping off and this and that, but now you got to take some constructive criticism. An actual DJ from the East Coast is not feeling Beat It and some of the other jams. How do you take that, Dan?
Samuel Jim had his hand in every song that I picked.
Oh, you chose Beat It.
No, I chose Beat It, but I rearranged all of the other songs. I was like, I got to do like one of the songs I wanted to pick.
He was saying that sometimes we play a lot of the same songs. So I don't know.
We have not played Beat It.
Hold on, Danny. What? That's That's the color of his hair. There's nothing he can. He likes it that way, Sam.
He's taking it personal.
Yeah.
He's making it personal.
He
Danny
thinks it's cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
No.
Sorry, he's.
Wow.
That's Goze. That's Goze inciting the fire.
You tell Samuel Jim I thought we were cool. Like, he taught me how to iron a shirt.
Danny says he thought you guys were cool. I'm not going to tell him that, Sam. That's rude.
All right. So here we are. It's the second hour of the. You want to hop on, Sam, for a little while? Yeah, let's bring Samuel Jam and talk a little bit about March Madness. And it starts tomorrow.
Just stand.
And I know some of you just aren't into March Madness, but I'll tell you what, even if you aren't, get in a pool, have a little bit of fun. It's it's just like a Super Bowl square thing or whatever.
See,
but
I never do that.
It's not a bad time.
Because I hate when people win that don't know what they're doing. Like God bless her
most
soul,
of the time,
Zari out here.
Yeah.
Every year she comes in and goes, "I won my fantasy football league." Drives me nuts.
How do you know
most
she
of the
don't know
time
about football?
Most of the time it won't work out, but you're right.
No.
Sam, are you in a pool? Welcome, Sam.
What's up, G? How you doing?
Good.
G double.
Are you gonna
BT, G money?
Are you gonna be in a pool this year?
I'm at one at work, and yeah, I'm filling out.
Who you got going all the way? Who's your final four?
Well, my final four as of right now, Arizona, Michigan on the one side, and even though I'm in one at work, I'm still debating till I have till tomorrow morning to change it, because originally I had Villanova in the East, but that region has me torn. There's a Sweet 16 game I have between Villanova and West Virginia that has me a little concerned, and Purdue's also in that region I'm a little concerned about. And then the region underneath that, I got Michigan State, but that Michigan State Duke game can go either way.
Yeah. I think Purdue, in the early part of the season, I caught a couple games, and they look good, man. So I think they're going to – I think I have them against Arizona in my final two.
And I like them, but I don't think they're tournament ready.
Who's that?
Purdue.
Because they got three seniors.
Their conference?
I think teams like how you said Michigan State, how early on, I think those are the teams that are well coached. They're the ones that flourish.
Well, what's his face? Painter is an underrated coach. That's the first thing. Second of all, they got three seniors, and come tournament time, seniors play a big role. So I tend to ride with that. So that has me a little concerned.
Mm-hmm.
That's me a little. But Arizona. I mean, put it this way: everybody's got Virginia's the #1 overall seed. A lot of people have Virginia. Eventually, Virginia is going to meet Arizona. I think that's going to be the game, and so I think Arizona gets past them. And just like you, I have Arizona winning the whole thing, regardless.
Okay.
Arizona, and then whoever's on the other side. But I like to see Villanova, obviously, but I think Arizona is too much.
I think they're a little overrated.
Arizona?
UNLV took them to overtime.
Arizona?
Yeah.
So who's your final four or final two?
I haven't really done it yet, but I right now I had Kansas winning the whole thing.
I don't know about no Kansas.
Yeah, I knew
I don't know about no Kansas either.
For Kansas versus who?
I haven't done it yet.
Okay. Is there any other team that you like other than Kansas?
I think North Carolina is going to shock a few people. I think they're going to do better than what people think. I think Virginia is going to stumble at some point.
North Carolina won it last year, right?
They won last year, but they lost a couple of people.
Right.
I tell you, there's a couple of sleepers.
It's not like before where a team was good for a few years and saying something like that meant something like, yeah, and they're returning a few guys. There's so many people that are just dipping out so quickly, you know.
That's why a team like
it's
Purdue.
It's tough to keep track of them.
Well, that's why a team like Purdue, with three guys that have been together for 4 years, holds some weight. And that's why a team like St. Bonaventure that beat UCLA last night, they got guys, upper-class guys. They don't have the one-and-done guys. And a team like St. Bonaventure, I'm not saying they're going to go all the way, but they could literally make some noise. I could see them beating Florida tomorrow, and possibly getting to the Sweet 16. I wouldn't be surprised. Seniors hold a lot of weight.
That game was just to get them into the 64, right?
Yes.
Okay. I wish you would have told me that, because I'm always looking for a reason to bet against UCLA. But the fact that they were underdogs, that money line would have been nice.
Well,
and yesterday I just took the night off, and I didn't play anything, but something like that would have been nice. Like, all I need to hear is a few catchy lines like that. I love leadership, so when seniors are playing, the fact that you saw him. You said you saw him play in person, right?
No, I seen him. I'm up in the Northeast, so I seen him on TV a few times. They're in upstate New York, but I've seen him like about 4 or 5 times this year. The point guard Adams, he's from. That's the other thing. It's one thing to have seniors, but then if you got guys that can play, like this kid is from Baltimore. He's a player, you know. So they got players, man. They got some talent.
Not to disrespect at all, but at no point have I heard anybody say, "Hey guys, I love college hoops, but how are we gonna watch them fights this weekend?" Do you guys think? What do you guys feel about this card? Is it a must watch, or are you gonna just wait?
Oh, the London card?
Yeah.
Is it Fight Pass?
Fight Pass.
Fight Pass, right? Yeah. So it's on delay. Oh, sorry, not on delay. It's on what's it called? Yeah. It's just a morning show. It's a morning show, morning/afternoon show for us. I will have it on the computer, but not all the fights will pull me in to watch them live. I'll probably just watch the ones that matter, whether it's rankings or just I'm playing them or whatever. But if the game is, if there's just no game on or they're during a timeout, then I am watching. I'm having a good time, but it won't be my number one attention. The March Madness will be. That's just the way it is, man. A lot of these fighters, if they don't make themselves relevant enough that I have to be invested in one way or another, then that's on them. I don't feel like it's on me. It is my job to do it, but when I start getting calls about, hey, who won that fight on Fight Pass, you know, and we really need to analyze it, then I guess I'll be more apt to check it out. But our audience doesn't seem to gravitate towards that. They only gravitate towards a star when they start winning.
I love March Madness. I'll probably keep an eye on the fights, but I'm not too worried about it. This is my junkie gathering, March Madness every year.
Yeah, like Dan's job is different. He's got to analyze every single fight, so he'll watch the opening bout just as intently as he'll watch the main event. But
even then.
Even then what?
Even then I'm like, it's kind of slipped in my mind. I'm not even a March Madness guy, George, and I kind of have the same attitude. What does that say? But
are there some fights that you could care less about on that?
It's tough, man. I'm a real optimist, you know, when it comes to, finding gems on the undercard or fighters who, I'm a big fan of Leon Edwards, but it's just even when you have fighters like Leon Edwards who have a story or you might like, they're not in the most sexiest of matchups, and with a lot of the matchup fallouts and not just, the climate that we're in. This card, I feel like, may suffer as far as viewership, talk, buzz. I'm not feeling a lot this week to start with. It feels like it snuck up on a lot of people, even though there's really no card before it or surrounding it, which is rare, right? There should be a lot of attention kind of on this card for that reason. But no, man, I'm not seeing a lot. Stevie Ray's coming back, Kahan Johnson.
Well, that's the thing. Here's the thing.
Tough.
If they've done our show, for some reason, that for sure starts the process. You know what I mean? Just doing our show, and I'm not telling all 22 fighters you must do our show. That's not what I'm saying. But at some point, if they've done our show, then I really get a lot more interested.
Yes.
And there's like Mike Rodriguez, the guy that's fighting Devin Clark. I know very zero about the guy. He's got 9. He's 9-2 or 9-3, depending on what you look at, Tapology or Sherdog.
Right.
But why haven't I heard about him if he's already in the UFC? Is it poor management? Did he not do a good job himself? Did the promotion not highlight his skills? Because obviously, someone dropped the ball. It can't be me.
Right.
I can't fucking keep track of thousands of fighters. You know what I mean? This Mike Rodriguez is fighting Devin Clark. Who bad is that? The flying knee.
Flying knee. Yep. You
got
it. You got it, sir. You got it.
Oh, fuck. All right.
I was reading some stuff on One Championship, and I wanted to get into it so bad, but there's no time. I couldn't. Half of the fighters were like, "Who?"
I'm just happy to hear you guys saying what I was telling Goze last night about this weekend's London card, because I felt as though, and I'm a hardcore MMA guy, but I wasn't feeling like Dan hit it right on the head. It was kind of hard to remember there was a card this weekend. And there was no card last weekend, and so you should be looking forward to one. Obviously, I'm a huge college basketball fan. This always takes precedence, but still, nonetheless, I told Goze last night, I'm like, who's on this card?
Is it on the UFC to get the fans more interested? Is it on the fighters themselves, since the UFC's not doing both, to get the fans more interested?
Both.
And how would they do it?
Well, I've said time and time again, this wouldn't work for the smaller cards, but I think the same way the boxing, they do the face-off. Do that 5 minutes with your fighters. Upload it onto the internet. All of them. All of them on the main card, at least. Upload it onto Facebook or whatever. These little...
and then once they're there, the fighters have to realize, even the respectful ones, they have to say something to catch your attention, right?
Have you ever seen...
Doesn't always have to be a shove or yo mama joke or nothing, but tell us something, even a prediction.
You know the real world?
I'll be honest with you. I like Devin Clark. We've had him on the show as an RFA fighter and a UFC fighter. But towards the end, I felt like, are the recappers going to be able to, like, what are they going to gravitate to? Maybe there was the Bones thing, him training with Jones, so either the nickname or him training with Jones. What's it going to be? And I hadn't asked that question in a while. But sometimes I'll do it when I feel like the interview may not have a catch. Well, how about a prediction? You know what I mean? Because that'll usually do it.
Yeah.
I see myself mounted and pounding his face in, boom. Clark sees himself, whatever. So,
that said, though, while I understand pay-per-views take precedence, I think it's incumbent upon the UFC, too, to promote it more. I mean, like Dan said, a lot of people don't even know there's a card this weekend. Why isn't there some kind of promo or ad? You know? I mean, even at least the headliner.
Right.
So, I understand it's not the end-all, be-all headliner, but, I mean, you can have something saying, Verdum is fighting this weekend or Mano is fighting this weekend. Like, nobody knows. So, I understand you don't have to put the same promotion machine behind it that you would like a pay-per-view, but you should be able to run an ad. I don't see nothing.
Yeah, except for maybe the Jenny Andrade and MMAjunkie video breakdown that's running around the internet right now. That's actually one of the more things that are up about this card, kind of to Sam's point. And yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. I'll give my old take, but I'll also give a positive spin just to kind of cap this off. And my old take is the same take as now as far as whose responsibility. I always say this: it's the UFC's responsibility to lay the road. It's the fighter's responsibility to go down the road. There's plenty of different ways and styles you can walk down that road. That's up to the fighter, and they're going to get different results depending on how they do it. That's up to them. But it's the UFC's job to lay that road. Now, what I can say for the spin, though, for this week, for both the fighters, this applies to both the fighters and the UFC, when you are granted in this crazy, where you can't control the schedule, you can't control the matchmaking, that's out of your power, sure, but you're lucky enough. Sure, it's a small card. Sure, it's not getting promoted, but there's a silver lining in everything, and you're lucky enough to be in a card that's not surrounded by other cards, and it is a small card, which means you're not competing against a Conor McGregor, a John Jones. You're not competing for these headlines. There isn't the cheap heat matchup. There's not that rivalry matchup, sure, but there's not that rivalry matchup to compete with if you're a fighter. That means there's more narrative lines that are open for writers that are looking to write stories, and whether you want to punctuate in an interview like George brought that example, or otherwise, whether it's doing your own video things. I think Andre Sukumta, he had the video people there with him, but he actually did his own video blogs before getting into the UFC, and I think that helped get the attentions of matchmakers. Getting in charge of your own production, making your own T-shirts. So
Verdum could be on the cusp of a title shot if he wins, and yet not many people might see it and B get excited about it. You know what I mean? Manoa was close at one time. Yeah, exactly.
He is one of the greatest of all time.
Yeah. Manoa was close to a shot before Volkan Ozdemir took him out of it. And remember, he was gaining some heat with Daniel Cormier.
Yeah.
So I think the UFC's gotten a little complacent at times. Where
that's the point that I'm making.
When there's like big fights, it's like, oh, we rally and we get behind them. It's like all their eggs are in the Khabib Tony Ferguson basket. But yet they have a card that they're paying all this money, hundreds of thousands of dollars, to all these people. London's going to have a great pop. That arena really, really, really gets going. It's going to be a great event. I don't know, man. I think they got to ramp up the promotion a little bit more on their Fight Pass cards.
Unless their mindset is, listen, we're going to take a hit this weekend anyway because college basketball is going to take over. And so really, if somebody tunes in, great. And if not, no big deal.
Yeah, it's what it feels like, because it feels like, especially with the way they matchmake these cards, where it just feels like it's kind of just filler. Okay, well, we have X amount of shows to fill to serve these masters. These fighters need X amount of fights. Mm-hmm. We've already opened up these regional markets over the past years. We've already dug ourselves that hole. So now we have all this regional talent that we brought on. Whether or not you think they're UFC caliber or not is besides the point. They're on the roster now. We have to find a place for them, which means we have to find fights for them, which means there's a certain amount of housekeeping. And I hate to put it that way. All fights are special. These fighters are special. What they're putting on the line is insanely special. I don't want to downgrade that. But yeah, the way they're approaching it, how do they expect us to feel when that's what it kind of looks like on paper?
It could be that they just feel like as long as we do great at the gate in London, we're good. Maybe a few stars are born. Maybe they're not. These
Which
guys
they will.
Maybe these guys get work, but I got a feeling they could do more than that.
Let's be honest. If you're a sports fan in London right now, there's not much to cheer about, right? All the action's in Manchester.
Stevie Ray and Cajun Johnson, heard of them. But Nasrat Haparast versus Nad Marinami, half the world is lost.
Exactly.
Mark Yardbeer, heard of him. And his opponent, Dmitry Sosnovsky, I've heard of him. Paul Craig, heard of him. But he's fighting Magomed Ankalaev. I don't remember him.
Right.
Danny Henry against Hakeem Dawadu. Brad Scott versus Jack Marshman. Had we not had some of these guys on Cage Warriors, we'd be lost. Danny Roberts, yep. Oliver Enkamp, nope. Charles Bird and John Phillips. Heard of John Phillips, but not Charles Bird. Charles Bird? Wait. Is Charles Bird a black heavyweight fighter?
Charles Bird. I'm not sure who Bird is, but Phillips is the.
No, because Phillips is a welterweight.
Yeah. No,
so I don't know who Charles Bird is.
Bird is the black gentleman on the site. Phillips is a. He trains. He lives in John Kavanagh's backyard out of a caravan. There's a bit of a story on him. I don't know much about his opponent.
We're hardcores in it. We can't even keep our attention to it. How are you going to expect the casuals to lynch on if they're only, so at that point, I'm not even, I guess Verdum and Volkov's the draw to get tickets, and so's Manoa and Blachowicz, but honestly, like, if no one's seeing it, why does it matter?
Exactly. That's the irony of it, is even if we weren't to criticize the matchmaking, if there was, which there's actually really good matchmaking. We like to criticize the current climate, but there's actually really good matchmaking that Mick Maynard and Sean Shelby are doing on the lower portions of the card. But that's the whole point. That's what's so upsetting, is that it doesn't matter, is that we can have the matchmaking, we can have these guys have great performances. They can even step up to the plate and give us a post-fight speech and go above and beyond. But it gets swallowed, and if the road's not being laid and the other things, it's so hard. It's so hard to stick out there. It really is.
If I put a parlay together, I guess I'll watch. But
makes you wonder, though, like, why did they even schedule a card this weekend? Why didn't they do it last weekend, knowing that this weekend was going to be the first weekend of the tournament?
And you know what else I'm thinking, Sam?
Schedule it in the right place, though, right? If they had to.
True.
A place that doesn't really care about the tournament.
This is true. I understand that, and maybe that's their mindset. Is we're looking towards the in-house crowd. We're not even concerned about.
They're still going to make money at the end of the day.
They're looking
just
at
thinking, let's just make some money and.
Why not put Verdum and Volkov on a pay-per-view? I'd rather see it in New York.
You needed a name.
Subscribers.
You needed a name
for the draw at the gate in London.
Well, who were you going to have originally when this card was thought about?
It was going to be Bisping.
They were talking about Bisping, and once that didn't, you needed a name. You needed something. I mean, look at they put that on, and we're still not enthralled. So imagine if they didn't even have that. Like, what would they go with?
So I'm thinking, what if Manoa and Blachowicz, and a lot of people are going to struggle with Blachowicz, but Manoa can really provide a highlight reel finish. But if that fight and the other fight was on a pay-per-view, maybe the Cyborg one. Could the Cyborg one, rather than make 260 pay-per-views, make 360 pay-per-views?
No, for sure.
And could that money offset the loss at the gate in London? And just tell London, look, man, it's a fucking Challengers card. Show up or not. All our money is we're a pay-per-view based business. Rather than take the criticism of, this is on a pay-per-view? Why is this on a pay-per-view? Should I pay for this pay-per-view? People shouldn't be questioning your pay-per-views.
No, for sure.
You see what I'm saying?
No, that mindset works because putting those two fights on last week's card or the
would have helped
2 weeks ago, for sure.
It's more the building stars question. I mean, we could go the numbers thing. That's kind of Dana White's was a couple months ago. This was our most profitable year. Like, you can all spin it off numbers, but I think the bigger question at hand is who's our next stars from?
I have the solution. So just call this the Dana White Contender Series in London.
I'm down.
Just have it in a gym. We don't need the gate, and let's produce stars.
Believe me, I'm down with that. I'll tell you why. Because the example you guys just brought up, where Sam said we almost brought Michael Bisping to save it. Well, what was the last Fight Pass show, guys, that was in the same situation that was almost struggling? UFC Shanghai. So we're saying a guy at the tail end of his career who's never, he's been a world champion and he was my fighter of the year. I'm not trying to downgrade him, but let's be honest, never been a highly regarded as an all-time great fighter. He's one of our biggest names in draws right now that we're having to reuse like a tattered recycle bag. Is that the state where we're in to save these cards back-to-back Fight Pass cards? The same guy? Where's our next stars coming from?
Well, it goes back to that discussion we had last night. I think the product is watered down. maybe too many events.
Yeah.
I understand there's a lot of fighters.
Too many
on the
Masters.
roster, but there's way too many.
Is Bisping your fighter of the year for 2017?
He went 20. I believe it was. I mean, not 2017, but no, 2016. I believe was the one. Yeah, he was mine for that because I'm a big narrative guy. You know, we could go numbers, kind of like the thing. We could go numbers and facts all day. It's kind of the narrative of also. I felt that won the award, and the narrative that I'm seeing for this topic is that I'm looking at where our next star is and where we're going in the future. Like we can make our money, we can make our overhead, we can make some Masters and some TV deals happy, sure. But I'm looking at more of the sport, man, where the longevity's at.
Let's talk to Showtime in Tennessee. It's his time. What's up, Showtime?
Showtime.
What's going on, fellas?
Not much.
What's good, fam?
Sammy P in the building.
What's up, family? How you feeling?
Yeah.
What's going on, man? I'm so freaking pissed, man. UCLA, man. All I needed was UCLA to win that game last night, and I would be smiling today coming into the weekend. I mean, I've been having a good week, man, and UCLA just let it all over themselves, man. That was bad. That was bad, Sam. Don't you think that was bad coaching, man?
On UCLA's part last night?
Yeah.
They lost by 15, didn't they?
No, that was close.
Oh, was it close?
They were down, and they closed it,
yeah.
and they took the lead. But there were a couple weird fouls at the end of that game. That
on both ways, though.
Both ways.
Both ways. Yeah, the refs kind of
that was the makeup call of those, Tony.
Yeah, and I think the refs kind of swayed that game at the end, but it went both ways.
I'm glad they lost. I can't stand them. But a few of my friends that root for them were telling me, watch, at the end, we're going to steal it.
I don't think so.
And, I mean, if you look at a guy like Coach K or some of these big coaches.
3 UCLA players got caught stealing 6 months ago. No laugh. Nothing. All right.
Hit the drop.
Showtime. So, yeah, they lost. So now what? What else?
Nothing, man. I'm just.
He's salty.
I'm glad
he's salty right now.
Weekend.
He didn't hit that show.
Those more parlays for me.
Next time, call a brother, man. I could have told you about St. Bonaventure.
But you know what? I'm gonna tell you this, Sam. My intuition was telling me don't put UCLA on that parlay, so I didn't listen to myself.
No, but that's what I'm saying. Don't go by the intuition, man. Call a brother, man. Get some resources. You know what I mean?
Hey, I might need to ship some money out there today, man.
All right, man. Look, I'm gonna leave you with a couple of sleepers. All right.
Oh, you got to play for today, Sam?
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying. No, not today, but for the tournament.
Okay.
All right. Loyola Chicago going to the Sweet 16. New Mexico State going a couple of rounds, possibly the Sweet 16. I like St. Bonaventure tomorrow against Florida, and like I said, Michigan in the Final Four.
Yeah, I'm hearing a lot of
support
from Michigan.
That could be a little bit of a homer pick. Point guard from Michigan's from my hometown, but you know. So.
All right.
Michigan, nice.
All right, Showtime, any thoughts on this weekend's London card? Today's our last show, so we won't have any predictions to be taken from guys like you for our Thursday and Friday show.
Yeah. You know what? I'm actually glad that we got this card, man, because a guy like me, those most show lays that I have the opportunity to get, man. But I'm like you guys, man. I don't think they really promoted this card that much, man. If you're not a real hardcore MMA fan, then it'll just fly right up under your nose. And what I hate is they putting all their eggs in the basket with Khabib and Ferguson, man. And what if something happened again? I'm not trying to jinx it or nothing, man, but
yeah,
I'm just kind of spooked out on that, man.
Well, listen, thanks for the call. I got to say this, and this is going to sound like, well, yeah, shit, you work for the company. Why isn't there a skin on the outside of Junkie? Remember when you used to log on and then it'd have all these reminders of these fight cards that are coming up? And that's what it takes nowadays.
You're saying for Fight Pass?
For this Fight Pass show, yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't seen many of those lately.
Much. They make a lot of money, right?
Huh?
They make a lot of money. It's not going to cost them
I mean,
much.
I guess they're maybe hanging billboards in London because they want people to go to the fights. But what about the other audience?
It could be just that. Maybe they're just like, hey, we're going to make a good gate. We're still going to make money.
Shoot, their own digital's been having a tough time. We didn't get Kunitskaya's face on the front of their website until Thursday before the fight happens. So
yeah, something tells me, man, that they're... I don't know. I don't think you ever want to alienate your hardcore audience. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Even if that number's only 200,000 or 300,000, that always gets the pay-per-view. Those numbers should always be growing, which is like what I hear about the WWE fight. What's it called? Not Fight Pass. But what's theirs called?
WWE Network.
Right?
The network, yeah.
Their numbers just constantly keep going and going and going. But I just think that the UFC could be doing the same thing. And I've heard their numbers still have reached $500,000, but even just the skin on Junkie. And I mean, let's go to the other sites. Bloody Elbow, for example. Do they have something? Are their fans reminded? What's this? Build your own bracket. Like March Madness beat them to it. Build your own bracket over there. And then if you scroll down, there's something going on there with London and Verdum. There's a story there. But still, I don't know if there's enough reminders. That sucks because there's going to be like a whole month where only one event on Fight Pass is in the middle of it. And then other than that, that's it. Why are you doing that? There's no off-season in mixed martial arts. Danny, how are we doing? Is it commercial time or we have time for Marco from Waco Brother?
If Marco wants to go quick, then we have time for him. Otherwise, we have to take a break.
Wait, what time do we have? The Assassin, baby? Oh, no, we got to take a commercial. You're listening to MMA Junkie Radio on Sirius XM Rush 93. Stay close. We'll be right back. We got to talk to Brandon Moreno, UFC flyweight, and then we'll finish up with Marco from Waco. All right, we'll be back.
drink Mentos-flavored Diet Coke without their stomachs giving a single fuck. They are Gorgeous George and Goze. And this is MMA Junkie Radio.
The Jim Rome Show is now on Sirius XM weekdays at noon Eastern. Catch The Jungle and the rest of the CBS Sports Network on Channel 201 and on the Sirius XM app. Sam All Jam coming strong. Hungry Like a Wolf, that was you? Duran Duran? No? All right.
That was me.
I thought he said he picked them.
Thanks.
I thought he said he picked them all except for me. I'm getting thrown off here. Sam All Jam and Danny are like telling me different things here. All right, our next guest is Brandon Moreno. He is going to be fighting at UFC 223 on April 7th in Brooklyn, New York. He joins us now on MMA Junkie Radio. What's up, Brandon? How you doing?
Yeah, I'm fine. Thank you so much for the invitation.
All right. Well, so you're in Vegas. How long are you in Vegas for? How long are you going to be doing your camp here?
Actually, until my fight. So I think so 3 weeks. So I fly to Brooklyn from here.
Did you bring your coaches with you, or are they going to meet you in Brooklyn?
Actually, right now I training in Extreme Couture. The next week, my coaches from Tijuana comes like 1 week or two, and he helped me with my drills, the striking drills, and that. But right now, the training in Extreme Couture is really good.
Do you have to communicate with your coaches daily just to let them know what you covered while they're not here, or do they trust you and just allow you to go through your workouts, or whatever it is that needs to be done to prepare for Ray Borg?
I mean, I have a plan for Ray Borg from my coaches in Tijuana, but here in Vegas, I don't know the coaches. I don't have a lot of communication with them, so I need to wait for my coaches from Tijuana.
What about Joseph Benavidez? Do you still have that relationship with him? He was kind of like a mentor with you on the show. He talked a lot about you after the show. He lives in Vegas. Have you been able to work out with him, or at least maintain that relationship?
No. The relationship with Joseph is huge. I know Joseph in the tours, in tours 24. That's my coach. So there start the relationship, and really well. Actually, he's helped me a lot with my game plan, because for example, yesterday I did sparring with him, and he tried to mimic the moves from Bravo. So no, just gonna be like, I don't know. I like my mentor.
Awesome. Brandon Moreno, our guest here on MMA Junkie Radio, fighting at UFC 223 versus Ray Borg on April 7th. Dan, Tom, what do you have for Brandon Moreno?
Brandon, I got to ask you, man, important question first. What are we walking out to? Are we walking out to El Trey again? I like your walkout song you usually use.
Do you like my walking? Actually, yeah. I like my walking, but maybe I change the song. But if you say I need to go again with the same song, I go with the same song. Why not?
I'm not sure. I guess I know you for sure used it when you walked out to fight Sergio Pettis in Mexico, and I had some friends that turned me on to that band. El Trey, I believe, is the band, correct? That's the band?
Yeah, El Trey. It's a really Mexican band. It's like in Spanish rock, and it's like everybody in Mexico knows El Trey. It's really famous.
Yeah, definitely, man. And so, coming from Mexico, you're training here now, Extreme Couture. But before this, I'm looking at your Instagram. You were in. Did you spend some time in San Diego at Studio 540 wrestling?
Yeah, I had really good wrestling classes with the coach Darrell Christian. She's coach to and he helped me. I mean, I think he's very happy with my performance. And yeah, I train a little bit in the Studio 540, and sometimes with TJ. He moved to California to train, so I have the opportunity to train sometimes with him.
That's awesome, man. Can you speak about those sessions? How was that training with the champ?
It's hard. I mean, I trained it before with a lot of UFC guys with really really high level athletes. But TJ is other thing. His wrestling is very good. His striking, his scrambles. I can't win any scramble with him. So the experience is really hard, but it's very good too.
Brandon, if we go back to the Pettis fight, what would you say was the most valuable lesson that you learned from that fight?
No, I mean that fight sucks. You know, I'm more because my technique and the game plan was good, but my body had like a lot of injuries. My mind was like tired. So no, my body needed to take a little break. I had a lot of activity in the last I don't know, maybe 2 years. So a lot of fights. Before the tour, I had a defense of my belt in Arizona, and then the Ultimate Fighter, Smoka, the North. So you know, I felt really tired in that fight, physical and mentally. So right now I feel really good. I feel like a new guy. I feel completely.
Do you feel like eventually you guys will fight again?
I hope. I mean, every single fighter who lost with some guy, I think so. He wanted to take the rematch. You know, it's like this for our personal feelings. So I mean, I think so. I'm still better than Sergio Pettis, but she won the fight, and it is what it is. So it's fine. In the future, I want to fight with him, but right now I have an important fight against Ray Gore.
I know it's still early, but do you feel like making Vegas part of your training camp will be something that you will start doing going forward?
Maybe yes. I mean, the PI is amazing. Right now, I'm in the jacuzzi and the hot tub, and it's perfect. I mean, after my first training, I can feel relax a little bit my legs, my body, and the PI is a really advantage because the food is free. It's a good food. The special trainers. So yeah, maybe yes. I depends what happened in this fight, how am I feeling. But right now, I feel really comfortable with this.
That's awesome. Well, Brandon, listen, you're in Vegas for a few more weeks. Maybe next time we can have you in studio. But at least it was great to catch up with you and see how you're doing. Sounds like everything's going great, and you have a great mentor in Joseph Benavidez. You have a couple options here in Vegas with the UFC PI and Extreme Couture. So I think you'll be in good hands until your coaches arrive from Tijuana, just so you can finish up camp. Because this is going to be a great fight. Ray Borg's a great fighter, but you're a great fighter as well. So it's going to be a great. I can't wait to see this fight between you guys. It's very pivotal for both of you guys in the flyweight division.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I know Sergio Pettis is really good, but I think so. Ray Borg is like a more hard fight. You know, it's very explosive, really good wrestling, good scrambles, good positions, good transitions. So I'm excited for the fight because he loves the ground. I love the ground. But we don't have a scare to exchange punches, you know. So I'm excited too.
Well, thank you very much for the time here on MMA Junkie Radio. We'll talk to you soon, all right?
Yeah, thank you guys. Thank you. Thanks for your time too.
All right, thank you, Brandon. Take care. We'll see you. All right, folks, that's Brandon Moreno. You can follow him on Twitter at @TheAssassinBaby. All right, I think we have one more break to take, right, Danny?
We do.
Yeah, we should do that. Let's do that, and then when we come back, we'll finish up with a run of calls, and that we won't have to worry about anything. It's incredible how 30 minutes has just been throwing me off this whole time. Like, wait a minute, did we forget a commercial?
And it's our Friday. It's March Madness.
I think we're tripping. I had a good night's rest too, and you know what, Goze?
Not me.
That's hard because that loss to Sevilla impacted me for a couple hours, man. It was like a shot in the liver.
We need to talk about that.
That one sucked. It really sucked bad.
It didn't suck as bad for me.
Really?
I'll tell you why. I thought their first goal was amazing. And
Sevilla's?
Yeah, and I thought it was well played. Okay. And then how do you hate on David De Gea? He's always a wall. He's always there. He fucked up one time.
Well, I think and also
we didn't show up. We had lots of opportunities.
The defense let them down as well.
But it was one of the
and our offense. I mean, we're at home, man. We're at home to have that porous, or that it was just such a poor performance from the offense. But you can tell me more about your take when we come back. Again, it's MMA Junkie Radio on Sirius XM, Rush 93.
They pat down TSA agents because they don't know where those people have been, and because they can. They are Gorgeous George and Goze, and this is MMA Junkie Radio.
We are on the road to the Final Four on SEC this morning. Join Peter Burns and former LSU All-American Marcus Spears as they look at the SEC Championship in men's and women's postseason play. Sirius XM SEC Radio, channel 374, and on the Sirius XM app. All right, let's take this quick call from Marco from Waco in Texas, and then we'll do our daily debate, and then we got to get on out. But we'll give our final predictions on Volkov versus Verdum. We did a breakdown earlier this week along with Jenny Andrade, so I think we're all pretty clear which way we're leaning, but sometimes things happen. You rethink things, and upon seeing a little bit more of Volkov footage, he is a pretty tough out. If the fight remains standing, it's going to be a really, really good fight for Verdum. You know what I mean? He's got a decisive advantage on the ground, but on the feet, I mean, Volkov, when he gets going, he's pretty impressive.
Shoot, you guys can bounce back. I got to stick to it. No, but I agree. I agree with everything you just said, to be honest. Volkov is a dark horse, and I still stick with Verdum, though, man.
He's kind of filled out since his Bellator days, too. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's not a little more solid guy.
Marco and Waco, what's up, bud?
Marco from Waco to pass the beach.
Not much, man.
I'm finally following a guy that got a ticket action than me, man.
You know, hey, can I say that thing about the waffle? Hey, Marco, did you know
Waffle?
this? For the longest time, Sam All Jam, when you used to call in, he used to think you would say waffle maker. And one day he asked me about the waffle maker guy, and I was like, who the hell is he talking about? It was you. He thought you were saying waffle maker.
What the hell? My accent's not that bad.
Instead of Marco from Waco, you thought you were saying the waffle maker? Waffle maker, brother. Instead of Marco from Waco, brother. I mean, if Bugsy had said that, if Buffalo Blue had said that, if Weedy had said that, yeah. But you're a Puerto Rican, you're a Latino, you didn't catch that?
Sam, mi hermano.
I don't get it, right?
I don't know.
If a white dude came up and said, "Yo, bro, what's that guy saying?" You know, and I'd be like, "Oh, well, listen, he's from Chile. But that's a hardcore Puerto Rican, right? He's from the mean streets of Brooklyn."
I don't know.
All right. We'll have to debate it on another occasion because we still have one more debate to go.
What you got?
Get to it, Marco.
Real quick on this, like a fight this weekend, dude. I mean, I don't know what you guys want on promotion because the last 3 weeks on FS1 and FS2 and even on Big Fox, they promoted the fight. They did promos about the Verdun Volkov fight. They promoted Fight Pass. I mean, what you want, a worldwide campaign that every single channel got Fight Pass commercials? It's half a million subscribers. It's half a million subscribers. I am one. I'm getting my money's worth. I pay $10 a month and I'm getting a fight and enough men. This is only for the hardcores of the hardcores. The casuals will get to see this fight, so they get a full month off. That is your off season. And you get 6 more weeks during the year for an off season.
I just think anytime there's an opportunity to bring in casual audience, you need to do that as well. You know what I mean? And remember, in the past, in the old days, you knew that on Thursday it was Seinfeld. You knew that on Tuesday night was Dynasty or whatever. You knew Monday Night Football was on Monday Night Footballs. But nowadays, Marco, anything and everything is game, man. Amazon's got original content. Netflix has original content. There's like 1,300 channels on anybody's cable system. Try going from one and you just keep going and going and going. Aside from, hey, look at this YouTube documentary. Look at this. Look at that. This guy's on Snapchat. That guy's on Twitch. I mean, it fucking never ends. You know what I mean? So I think you always have to stay on top of the audience and keep reminding them, this is going on. This is going on. Because that's going to be a great main event. You know what I mean? Those are two fighters. Well, especially Verdun. One guy could be fighting for a world title. I just think the platform needs to be bigger. Otherwise, get him off that. You know, get him off that and just call it a Dana White Contender Series. And there's nothing wrong with that. People got fired up about Dana White Contender Series when it was happening. You knew what the stakes were going in. Then you need to know what they are exiting out. But anyway, I don't know.
We're MMAjunkie.com. That's where the hardcores go. So I would say, if anything, there's got to be a reminder there.
Yeah.
Hey, they got to cater to the international fighters at the markets. In Shanghai, they want to have Anderson Silva Gastelum. They got Michael Bisping Gastelum instead. It's not that they haven't done this before, man. We are not the American market, the end-all be-all. So they had to put a big matchup out there in London to at least get something on the gate.
But you got to keep us, man. You got to keep it. You already landed the fish. You got to keep them as well. You didn't marry your wife and say, "Oh, we'll only check in every anniversary." No, you take her to dinner once a week or whatever. You have your date nights. You know, you got to keep stoking the fire, right?
Yeah, I understand that, brother. Okay, just a little bit of advice. Peace out, dudes.
Easy, Marco.
All right, see you, Marco. You know, what he's saying is not wrong, but I just think it needs to stay fresh.
Yeah.
All right, speaking of debates, let's do our daily debate for today. Here is the question I'm lobbing at you guys, Junkie Nation. Do you believe former UFC Women's Bantamweight champ Ronda Rousey and new WWE talent, after she implied that she's done with MMA? I'm not sure if that was written correctly, but do you believe Ronda Rousey, she's now with the WWE, she's a former champion, that she's done with MMA? She implied it by saying the chances of her coming back to MMA are about the same as her probably going back to Olympic judo. I think that's what everyone's kind of clinging to. Goze?
Man, this is a lot tougher for me than what the results play out. I'm going back and forth because I want to say yes, but I could see her maybe waiting out a few individuals in mixed martial arts resting her body, but she's not really resting her body, right? She's doing pro wrestling. Here's the thing about pro wrestling. I just think she's not going to do that as long as people think she is. I think it's going to be too much for her. The schedule, the beating that her body will take, all the fans being in her face constantly. I think it's going to get old for her very quickly, so I think she'll be out of pro wrestling sooner than later. And at that point, I think she'll reassess. So I would lean towards, yes, there's a possibility she would come back. But I think she's going to wait out some of these gals.
Dan?
I agree with Goze. I don't think she's going to do pro wrestling as long as we think, but I am confident to say that I don't think she's going to be back. I'm willing to bet that even before her recent announcement. And the reason is because you look at her patterns of her history. When she accomplishes something or gets as far as she thinks or wants to go, or whichever one comes first, and kind of goes on to the next mountain, so to speak. She did that in judo. That was a lot of criticisms, that she might do that with MMA. And the fact that she even referenced it in the statement, that tells me that she's on the same board. She's ready to have MMA in that rearview mirror.
Right. So I don't think she's coming back either. I think what it'll take is someone that has a like a Sarah McMahon type of background, where the hands aren't going to be as much of a danger, like Amanda Nunes. The threat she poses, and this would be in a few years, a big money fight. That you just can't turn away from. Now in the WWE, I'm thinking, will the booing get to her? Will her not being a focal point and being the main star get to her? I think she can get by on that because she's a lifelong wrestling fan. She knows how the business works. And at some point, I think she will wear gold, right? But it's something that's very interesting with some former MMA fighters. And I'm not sure if I can say their names. That's why I won't. But it was very confidential what they told us. They tried it. They did it. But it just didn't come close to the rush of really knocking somebody out. You know what I mean? Right. And so, see, Ronda's not really a knockout artist per se, but I just don't know if the rush will be equivalent to what she felt being a world champion and getting that, And so I'm wondering if that could draw her back, along with just getting Nunes out of the way and her again fighting somebody either fought and beat before, or B, just someone that has a similar skill set to her that she thinks she can actually come back and win, a la GSP versus Bisping. So there we have it. I'm with the 87% that said yes, they believe she's done with MMA. They believe it. I believe it too. But I guess I'm just leaving a little bit more of that 99.9% window, the opposite, the 0.01. I'm leaving more of a 10%.
Can I throw out a crazy scenario?
Yeah.
All right. The type of person that she is, I don't see her being happy being the women's champion in WWE. What I think would make her happy was having that big title that the men carry. And because she comes from a background of MMA, I could see a scenario where down the road, if they somehow played it out, where whoever the champion, say it's Triple H, she said, I think I could take you. And they set something up really quick. And it's kind of like, remember Diesel and Bob Backlund where, boom, it was just a kick. He powerbombed them and won the championship. I could see her doing something like that, getting the belt. And I could see that making her
No one's
happy.
ever brought that up. You should call in to bust it over and bring it over and just and bring it up to them just to see what they say.
I don't know.
It's not the craziest thing I've ever heard. And at one point, weren't there some out there saying she could be Cain Velasquez? So who knows? Good point. All right, that's our daily debate for today, brought to you by the MMA Junkie Radio crew. What do we have left, Danny? About 3 minutes? 2 minutes?
Just about 2 minutes.
2 minutes. All right. Oh, our caller just wants to chill. Yeah. So we're good. For some reason, I didn't concentrate on that. Well, so we got to get on out of here. I'm sticking with Verdum. How about you?
I'm sticking with Verdum as well. You guys want a quick plug for what you guys got going on? I know Danny's got Poppin' Zits, and you got your story up on the front page.
Oh, yeah. I got the Nick Newell story up, and, of course, all my normal breakdowns and stuff will be coming out this week. Co-main event will drop later today, main event tomorrow, betting article after that, and Friday or Saturday, the fights.
And the podcast.
Yeah, that'll fit somewhere. That'll drop somewhere. Protect Nick podcast on iTunes for breakdowns on every week of the fights.
I personally have March Madness going on, so if you need to get a hold of me, don't call me. You're not a whale.
You want no one to call you, no one to bug you?
No.
Does that go for Mom, too?
Yes.
Wow.
Everybody.
He's hardcore.
Everybody.
Mom, you can call me.
Mom, you're not a whale.
All right. We are out of here. I want to thank our guest today, Brandon Moreno. As well as Devin Clark, and then earlier this week, Max Griffin, Aspen Ladd, Mike Jackson, Mike Swick, Curtis Blades, and Joe Duffy. Tomorrow, no show. Friday, no show. Tomorrow, you'll get a replay of today. Tomorrow, you'll get a best of that our producer, Danny Olkers, has put together. Olkers. And then we'll be back next Monday with more original programming. with the MMA Junkie Radio Show. So we are out of here. For Goze and Dan and Danny, I'm George. Go out there and be champions.